So, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, the Congress leader, is with us. He will be speaking on the current political scenario in India and also on his new book on Mr. V.K. Krishna Menon. So, hearty welcome,
Thank you.
Mr. Jairam.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to come back to Kerala.
Wonderful. In fact, I recall your conversation with Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi on your new book on V.K. Krishna Menon. And Mr. Gandhi was referring to the inner party democracy within Congress. So, how do you respond to that question?
Well, you know, it's a paradoxical situation. The Congress is a very tolerant organization. Very tolerant. It tolerates Shashi Tharoor, it tolerates Jairam Ramesh, it tolerates Mr. P. Chidambaram, it tolerates left extreme people like, Sudhiran, Satish, all these people from Kerala whose economic views may not necessarily always agree with our views. So the Congress in one way is a very tolerant organization. It's a live and let live organization. So we have internal discussions, we have debates, but somehow the public perception is different.
Yeah.
The public perception is that
The family dominates.
there is no criticism.
Yeah, the high command dominates.
That's not true, you know. People speak out in meetings. People are critical of decisions. But somehow the public perception is that we are dominated by one family. That's not the case. However, it's also true that compared to, say, the 1960s, when Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, I mean, during Jawaharlal Nehru's time, any MP of the Congress party could say anything against Mr. Nehru.
Yes.
You know.
And I definitely recall your statement on Mahavir
Mahavir Tyagi.
Yeah.
Mahavir Tyagi criticized Krishna Menon. He criticized Nehru on China. He criticized him.
And
on
he
so many.
openly said that Nehru will have to go.
Feroz
if
Gandhi.
Krishna Menon doesn't resign.
Feroz Gandhi.
Yeah,
Feroz Gandhi carried on a campaign in Parliament for the resignation of T.T. Krishnamachari.
Yes,
Was very close to Nehru.
Right.
So it is true that in one way, perhaps in our parliamentary forums, we don't speak out very. For example, we have not had till today, and I am sorry to say, I have to admit, we have not had an honest debate on why we lost 2019 so badly. I mean, we a little bit here, little bit there, you know. Even after 2014, we had Antony Committee report.
Yes.
You know, the man for all committees in the Congress party is Mr. A.K. Antony.
Yeah.
But even he, after 2019, there has been no Antony Committee report to analyze what went wrong in 2019.
So why is it? Because the defeat really rattled the Congress?
No, it's true that I think the defeat was unexpected. We actually hoped, to do very well. We hoped to be able to form a coalition government. We expected, our optimistic assessment was that we would get between 140 or 150 seats. And our pessimistic assessment was we would get around 110, 100 to 110 seats.
Even BJP didn't expect such a mandate.
Absolutely. BJP also, many people in the BJP were telling me if they were lucky, they would get, after Balakot, they were saying 230, 240. But before Balakot, they were still in the 200, 180 to 200 range. So I think,
we could just recall the image of Prime Minister Modi sitting beside Amit Shah in a very silent mood.
See, I would say that the Kerala Congress is a very democratic Congress. I mean, people, they talk openly, they criticize, perhaps they criticize each other a bit too much openly. Little bit of muted criticism would always be welcome. But generally, I think, unfortunately, we have given the impression, and it's true that we do not have the type of debates in the party that we used to have in the 50s.
Just coming back to the point that you just raised, that there was not an open debate on why Congress lost. So have you raised this issue within the party?
Well, we have talked to each other, but we have really not, was our communication wrong? What impact did the slogans that we had Were they effective?
So what really went wrong?
Was our alliance strategy, was it right? Was the way Mr. Rahul Gandhi campaigned,
Yes.
could it have been improved? We have not had a discussion on this. See, Mr. Rahul Gandhi resigned,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was the end of the conversation.
Yes, yes.
I mean, his resignation was a good moral step, agreed. But it should have been.
But then
there should
what
have been,
it really
yeah,
brought
but
about?
what did it accomplish? It should have been followed by, okay, this is what you did.
And
this
also
is,
that created a vacuum as far as leadership
absolutely.
is concerned.
See, we should have. Even now, it's not too late. It's only
Yes.
we've not even completed 1 year after
Yeah, yeah.
after the election. Even now, we should sit down and analyze where did we go wrong, how did we approach our alliances, did we make mistakes in our communications, did we make mistakes in projecting, what we stood for and what the BJP stood for. These issues, unfortunately, have not been
You had
discussed.
some interactions with Mr. Kennedy on this?
Well, I've discussed it with Mr. A.K. Antony, but Mr. A.K. Antony is Mr. A.K. Antony. So what can I say? I'm extraordinarily fond of him.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
extraordinarily. I respect him, and I'm extraordinarily fond of him. But Mr. Antony operates on a simple philosophy. Don't do anything, nothing will go wrong. Only if you do something, something will go wrong.
Yeah,
no?
right.
If
Only
you don't
then
do anything,
things will
nothing will go
happen.
wrong. Yeah. So
That is
I think we have internal debate. We have different points of view. I would still say today, Congress Party more democratic than the BJP, far more democratic than the BJP, far more tolerant of different points of view than the BJP. But that spirit of paradoxically, that discussion, tradition and culture is there in the CPM, in the communist parties.
Yes.
In fact, Jayaprakash Narayan once famously said that when revolution comes to India,
Yeah.
the comrades would still be discussing, around the table,
Right,
the dialectics.
right. Yes, yes,
So, they have open discussions,
yeah.
So, Yachuri will say something, Karat will say something,
And
Mr.
even
Baby
in
will say
last,
something.
Hyderabad Party Congress.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
was a heated debate.
there will be heated debate.
Yeah.
That type of debate we used to have in the Congress Party in the 50s. Till 1962, I mean, Mahavir Tyagi told Pandit Nehru on the 7th of November 1962 in a meeting of 400 members of parliament, if you don't accept Krishna Menon's resignation, you will have to resign.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
That is it, yeah.
Can you imagine a
Telling-
member of parliament
yeah.
telling Mr.
Prime
Nehru?
Minister of India.
Not
Mr.
just
Nehru, yeah.
Mr. Nehru is not an ordinary
Yeah,
prime
yes,
minister.
yes, yes,
Mr. Nehru was next to Gandhi,
Yeah,
in terms
right,
of moral and political, glory and luster and legitimacy.
And the MPs were really confident enough and they had that ambience there.
And they had the ambience, and they knew that Mr. Nehru will not be vindictive.
Yes.
See, today,
Yeah, there is a point.
they knew that Mr. Nehru would listen, he would embrace. Hey, Mr. Tyagi, oh, chalo Mahavir, rao, chai pio. That's how,
Right, right.
they continued to have that relationship.
Yes, yes.
So you see, I think that's where Congress Party we have to
So
rediscover.
Congress has to regain that kind of a robust democracy.
Yes, I mean we have different points of view, but having different points of view does not necessarily mean we have space for expressing these views openly.
Yeah.
Suppose you say something openly, people will say, "Arey, you are speaking the language of the BJP. Oh, you are in the departure lounge. You are going to the BJP." That's not. See, people are in the Congress Party because they are wedded to the ideology of the Congress Party.
Yes.
They want the Congress to survive. We want the Congress to be strong, and honest airing of different points of view and questioning the leadership at every step does not mean that we are weakening the Congress.
In fact, has this resulted in the weak handling of the ongoing protests against the
No,
CAA?
I don't think so.
Because there seems to be no focus
No,
on the
no.
part of Congress.
I don't think so.
And there seems to be an inner struggle going on within Congress
no,
because
that's not true.
earlier you have made a point that Congress has to raise more economical issues other than focusing on CAA.
No, that's not true. I think the Congress has been very right. We have kept an arm's length distance from all these public protests. These public protests are protests of the public, spontaneous outbursts of anger,
Yes. But why
spontaneous.
Congress is keeping this arm's length?
No, we should do our own. We are protesting in Parliament. we have gone to the president. We are a political party, you know. We have to follow democratic constitutional methods of protest. We have done that. We have done it in parliament, we have gone to the president, we have raised these issues, we have passed resolutions, we have carried agitations, but I don't think we should contaminate people's protests
But this
by
is one
political
moment
parties.
which Congress should
Let the people,
capture, you know.
let the people's protests should not be captured. I am very clear in my mind. People's protests are people's protests. People are protesting. People are coming out.
But how Gandhiji and Nehru galvanized
The enemy was the British. The enemy was not a democratically elected government. The enemy was the British. And see, all said and done, the CAA, the BJP would love the Congress party to get involved in these protests because the CAA has potential. In fact, it has already become, it's already become a Hindu-Muslim
should we
issue.
leave it to the Muslims?
No, it is not. It's not. See, it is been twisted by the BJP to make it a Hindu-Muslim issue. That is the unfortunate part of the citizenship, because citizenship, we have gone to the Supreme Court. I myself have gone to the Supreme Court. We have challenged the Citizenship Amendment Act in the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional. I think I think on that we have been right. We have maintained a slight distance. We have carried on our protests. We have provided moral and intellectual support to the protesters. But I don't think that we should be sitting in Shaheen Bagh. I don't think that. I think that would be counterproductive. It would weaken the movement. It would give the protesters a political color, and it would give the BJP one more handle to say that this, polarize Indian society, which is what they want to do.
But the observation and the reading is that this has a bigger agenda of RSS, and
We are fighting-
they are really moving forward in establishing, the Hindu Rashtra. That is their goal.
We are fighting
2025
NPR.
is the centenary of RSS.
We are fighting NPR. We are fighting NRC. We have challenged CAA in the Supreme Court. You will see now in Parliament, we will be raising these issues. So it's not as if we are not raising these issues. Our state governments have passed resolutions. Rajasthan has passed, Chhattisgarh will pass, Puducherry will pass, Madhya Pradesh will pass. So like the Kerala Assembly also has passed. So I think,
But another point of contention is that, in the context of Kapil Sibal's remark on CAA, that when this is passed by the parliament, the state governments will have to implement it
Constitutionally.
Yeah, constitutionally.
Constitutionally.
But the moral question, the ethical question is that if the parliament passes an unethical act,
then we challenge it in the Supreme Court.
under the
We have to
Nuremberg
chal-
trial, in the context of the
we have to
Nuremberg
challenge
trial,
it in the Supreme Court. The BJP government is a democratically elected government. The democratically elected government. We have to challenge it democratically. We have to challenge it in Parliament. We have to challenge it outside Parliament. We have gone to the Supreme Court. And Kapil Sibal's point is not entirely off the mark.
But the Congress is convinced that this is not a democratic act. CAA is
It's
not a democratic act.
It's an unconstitutional act.
Yeah, it's an unconstitutional act.
I was the first to go to the
It
Supreme Court.
negates the spirit of Indian democracy.
We have gone to the Supreme Court. We have done the maximum that we could do.
Yeah.
What else can we do?
Yeah. I do understand that.
What else can we
But
do?
in case, it's a hypothetical question, in case Supreme Court upholds what the government has done.
Let's see. I mean, I'm hopeful. We have given very strong arguments. We have got retired judges of the Supreme Court who have come out in support of our position. So let's see what happens. Yesterday, for example, the Supreme Court has issued a notice to the government on another petition that I have gone against the dilution of the RTI. They diluted the RTI Act. I went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has issued a notice. So let's see what happens. But we have gone. I was the first to go to the Supreme Court, challenging the Citizenship Amendment Act on the grounds that it is not constitutional.
And quite often these days we are reminded of Jaiprakash Narayan. He was such a magnetic presence. During
Yeah,
the
we
days
don't
of
have a
emergency.
Jaiprakash
So
Narayan.
do you really
when
miss
the
such
Congress
such,
party,
such an august leader?
I agree with you. When the Congress party calls a protest movement, Mamata Banerjee will not come. If Mamata Banerjee comes, Sitaram Yechuri will not come. Samajwadi will not come. BSP will not come. So there is no Jaiprakash figure. Remember, Jaiprakash Narayan was able to unite all anti-Congress forces
Yes.
on one forum. All anti-Congress. Jansangh, Swatantra, Socialists, Communists, everybody came under Jayaprakash Narayan's umbrella. Unfortunately, today politics is entirely different. To expect that we will have a JP type figure is, I think, being somewhat unrealistic.
And the current political scenario does not demand really accommodation of the federal parties, the regional parties more. Congress has to take stock of the situation, and Congress has to understand that time has changed.
We are
and
already in an era. Kerala Congress is regional Congress. Madhya Pradesh Congress is regional Congress. Amrinder Singh is a regional Congress. Bhupesh Baghel is a regional Congress. So, in our Congress party, we have already moved to a regional model. We have a lot of regional leaders. That's the way to go.
It's a kind of correction.
We should go. We were extreme centralization.
Yeah.
Look at Nehru's time. You had Kamaraj, you had Y.B. Chavan,
Yeah.
you had Govind Vallabh Pant, you had B.C. Roy,
Nijalingappa.
you had Pratap Singh Kairon, you had Hanumantayya first,
right.
and then Nijalingappa.
Atulya Ghosh.
Atulya Ghosh.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of S.K. Patil.
SK Patil.
So you had a lot of regional leaders. Then, of course, that was replaced by a highly centralized model. Now there is course correction taking place. Absolutely.
And how do you analyze the ongoing protests? There is a huge people's participation in the protest.
I agree.
Young people are coming
It's
out.
not only against Citizenship Act, but it's also, I think, general frustration.
Yes.
The economic situation being very, very gloomy, the general atmosphere of fear and intimidation,
Yes.
the politics of fear and intimidation that Mr. Shah and Mr. Modi practice, and they represent. So I think it's people's frustrations, coming out onto the streets.
And there seems to be a total lack of empathy on the
Yeah,
part of the
I
present
agree.
regime.
I agree. I mean, they are not bothered.
Because they say that we will
They
just
have
don't go back.
only one agenda. How do I polarize society?
Yes.
Everything for them is a Hindu-Muslim issue. Everything.
right.
Everything becomes either a Hindu-Christian issue or a Hindu-Muslim issue. So.
And you are having quite a lot of interactions with people from across the society. Do you get that feel on this polarization? Has it really?
Yes. I mean, the polarization has certainly helped Yogi Adityanath in UP.
Yes.
I mean, just before the CAA protests, 200 BJP MLAs.
BJP didn't even field a single candidate in the UP Assembly election.
Yeah, and 200
A Muslim candidate.
Yeah, 200 BJP MLAs were sitting in dharna protesting against Yogi Adityanath. But moment these protests started, Yogi used these protests to strengthen and consolidate his own position.
And still you see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's see. I mean, we are fighting. We'll fight in Parliament. We'll fight out. We have to keep doing whatever we have to do. Whether there is light at the end of the tunnel, I can't say. But we have to do what we have to do.
And you are expecting a new leader at the helm of your party?
We have a full-time Congress leader. We have a full-time Congress president. Mrs. Sonia Gandhi is very much in position. There is no vacancy at the position at the top. Thank you.
So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.